Bumps and bruises, scratches and scrapes, some of the ingredients that a good life makes. But sorrows become success, and as we aim for the top, we will pause if we must, but we will never stop. Welcome to Sim Soul Sessions. Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Sim Soul Sessions, the safe space to share your stories. Tonight, my glad bag has bursted. We're going to show you that not only can you walk and live, but you can talk and live even better. In the big chair tonight, it is my honor to have distinguished Jamaican actor, international actor really, painter, producer, philanthropist, inspirer, life student, Paul Campbell joins us on set. I am so happy to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well, my friend.
Is this like full circle,
For many years, yes.
I know.
Many years.
So Paul and I met when I was 18 years old at the Creative Production and Training Center.
Yes.
You were long established and doing your thing there, but many years later, here we are.
Yes, many years
Having had
later.
your journey.
I'm very happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here.
And speaking with you.
Yes, I'm glad you accepted the offer. I'm happy to talk to you. This is going to be a really powerful, very candid catch-up, and I'm grateful to Paul for agreeing to come and for the chat we're going to have. I know somebody's going to leave inspired today. So here you are, sir, sitting as a sum total of many parts. Lots of highs in your life, some lows as well, but they've all gotten you to where you are. Big actor on the world stage, and people see you as a larger than life personality. But Paul, you're really just a powerfully subdued human being. And I don't think people know that about you. When they see you, are they typically surprised to know you are so normal and down to earth and low key?
I try to, well, my mother always, I always will talk about my mother. Why? Because I was a single parent family. Yeah, only mama. So I would say my mother always had me balanced. My mother is always the person who would say to me, listen, if you are in awe about it, walk past it 100 times until the novelty wears off.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
And that was a lesson to teach you that everything is just...
So it's a thing of the nervousness, the jittery, and all of this applied to everything that I've done in life, my acting, my painting, my philanthropy, my everything, my writing, you know, just because my mother was a very laid back in her thinking as far as people were concerned, you know. In my heart, she was an empath.
Yeah.
I grew up in a house with strangers all the time. My mother would take in people who would be destitute, who would be wanting just for something to eat. My mother always cooks more than is required. And I remembered as a youth, I asked her one day, Mama, why you cook so much dinner? And she said, Paul, somebody is always going to be hungry, you know.
You ever see the pot left dirty?
You ever see the pot not wash one night yet? You know? So I say, I thought about it, and I say, true. You know, so I'd say it's hereditary, but it's so much more than that, the connection that my mother and I have.
Yeah.
You know, because today I still regard myself as my mother's son. Yeah. So with that connection, going through life, I was well set up, and my mother spoke with, we had some really rough times.
Yeah.
This is why I think the the bond that we have created has become, unbreakable.
Paul, I'm getting goosebumps when you speak because you're speaking about her in the present tense.
I do speak about my mother in the present tense because I am her in respect. I am her. I am part of my mother. I'm part of my father. I find myself saying things that my mother says, to my own kids, and she was the kind of person that
Did the same.
she's always giving. But I think in the back of her mind, it's creating a safety net for her kids to wanting to have something and not to give it all away. But then if you have your mother straight.
Yeah, you are her. Let's talk a little bit about your dad, who you say taught you so much about fathering in the way he showed up or did not show up.
My father.
Your father wasn't there.
He was considered the boxer, a Jamaican boxer, middleweight champion. And the next time I heard stories from my mother, when I was a young boy, without shoes, she'd take me to him, and I'd run. She said, "See you picnic day," and he'd put me back to her, and she'd put me back to him, and it was that. And the only memory of that was confusion for me. The last time I saw my father, he had asked me to pick him up for an event in Miami somewhere in Florida. And I picked him up. And I'm driving in my old van, and he says to me, "Is everything all right?" I said, "Well, not really. You see this tube coming out of my chest? I'm destined to die. They tell me I have cancer, and I'm on the treatment now." And he sort of looked at me, and I went, "Don't even worry about it." So I took him to the hotel and all of that, and he was not emotional at all. There was nothing that said to me, this man cared in any way. Then I found out also this man had lots of kids. This man was a star boxer and doing his thing, and and I forgive him because I understand that side of it. But it is truly, the truth is, he's not the greatest of fathers. My mother did always say, if he's hungry, feed him.
And it's what he took from that, because his own kids know, revere him. It's what he took from the lessons his father taught him, and a lot of what his mother put into him. Talk more with Paul about his mom, what she instilled, and how that has helped him as a father after this. Be right back. We're back with Paul Campbell on set, talking about his dad and his mom. You say your dad, you told me he became honorable when the lights came on, when you made a name. All of a sudden he, you know what I mean?
Yeah, my son, the actor.
His son, the actor. But fatherhood for you was decidedly different because you said,
Well, he certainly taught me how not to be. So that was definitely teaching me something. Anyway, I try to always look at the good out of everything, yeah.
So your kids know you say revere.
I have 3 boys. I have 3 wonderful boys, and they all know me. You know, so
They
I'm
all know me.
yeah, they all know me. So I'm unlike Dad, you know. So it's good, and it flows that way. You break that stigma, and then my sons won't have that to be bothered about. And they'll tend to their families, and life will be good. So, you know, we don't get bogged down with it. We just move on.
That's right. Let's go back to Mom now, who raised you in the inner city, but made you know from early. We're from here. We're not of here. And that formed the basis for a life that would give you a lot of challenges, but also give you the mettle to be able to get to where you are. First of all, the relationship with your mom. You call yourself her designer handbag. You
My mother,
everywhere she went, you were under her arm.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
And my mother, as the family grew, I mean, as I go on about her, you will understand the miracle my mother was. My mother never is without me. My first boy, I'm the first boy. So as the designer handbag, I was everywhere. I went to stage shows. This was my early, you know, come up and survive, being introduced to all of the entertainment, as it were. I saw Randy Williams, became Randy Williams and Miss Lou, who became my inspiration. And I got an opportunity to work with Randy Williams before he died, you know, I got an opportunity to speak with Miss Lou. We spoke, you know, before she migrated to Canada, you know. But my mother was always taking me to places, and whatever I wanted to do, she's always supporting it.
She was a
She
conductress.
nurtures.
She was a bus conductress, right?
Yes, she worked. Well, from the beginning, she was not always a bus conductor. It's when my life began. I grew up in a place called Raytown, and that was stuck in between the Bellevue Asylum and the General Penitentiary. That's where I was born, in that community. But although it might have been in between those horrid places, at that time, I was born in the late 50s and early 60s. But at that time, something wonderful was happening in that the people at that time was wonderful. They were great. They were always laughing. There were always music. I experienced a childhood that it's unlike now. And when I thought about it, I just figured that probably at that time, these people were being enslaved all up until this time, because it's 1962 that they were sort of, you know, they relinquished, and then the Union Jack came down and the Jamaica flag went up. I was in the stadium with my mother screaming. You didn't know why, but it felt good. So, you know, but it's that kind of thing. And my mother was always that kind of person of getting it on and showing you how, and this is how. She supported
And
everything.
expanding your view of the world, because when she was having it tough, she was still buying encyclopedia and putting inside your house?
Listen, there was a little man who used to sell books, and my mother bought a volume of encyclopedias. I think she paid for them. She paid over 18 installments for them encyclopedias. Yeah, a lot of money, you know. And I remember somebody asking her, why are you buying these books for so much money? And she said, and she pointed at us. She said, for them. You know, they're here. They need to know about the world. The books will teach them about the world. I'm not able to put them on a plane or put them on a train but the book, through their mind, will take them. So it's important that my kids have this.
Wow.
Yeah, so I tell you the miracle that my mother was. You think I'm kidding?
And then when you went to Casey, you know, which you say to me, you say your mom was your everything, but you really speak highly of that institution as having molded you. So Casey's where your love of theatre even started. And your mom wasn't keen on it, you know, but she's the same one who later on would send you the clippings from the newspaper when auditions are being held for You know, because she wanted you in the lawyer, doctor, Indian chief vein.
You know, Jamaican, Caribbean parents on a whole, they like the idea of you becoming the lawyer, the doctor, you know, but then the world at that time was not as exposed of all these different, you know, professions. So my mother wasn't keen on me becoming the bum, as she called it.
Is that what she said you
The
were?
bum. Although she liked Fred Astaire and she liked Gregory Peck and she liked all these old movie stars, she never wanted her son to be. And knowing Jamaica's thing at the time, you know, what sort of shot is that? It's a shot in the dark. So then she wanted me, and then when I insisted that this is where I wanted to go, and I remembered one day saying to her, Mama, I would be very good, you know. And she looked at me and she said, all right, you think you will be? And she said, Paul, it makes no money. And I say, yeah, man, movie star. And she said, you're going to be a movie star? And I said, yeah. And she said, okay. And that was the last time I spoke. I never spoke to her about it. Every day after that, she supported. I remember her, you know, being the conductor she was, she had to get up very early in the mornings. And we were living in Mountain View Avenue, a place called 63 Mountain View Avenue, which was a huge lot with many different houses. I think Robbie Shakespeare used to live behind me as well, across the gully. And when my mother would get up to get the staff bus at night, it'd be 4 in the morning. And so when we were walking through the tracks of the zinc, you know, the ghettos in Jamaica, zinc on both sides, and you walk into the track, you'd see the people who went to work earlier coming home, you know, and they said, don't be afraid, mother, our conductress. You're good, man, you're one away. And then he just disappears in the dark, you know. And then you hear my mother trying to comfort us by saying, it's all right, don't be worried, but in her voice.
You can hear.
And that I couldn't do nothing to stop that. It used to kill me that I couldn't do nothing to stop that. You know, and she went on and got on the bus and she turns around, she goes into her pocket and she hands me that little plastic bag of 5 cents. And she says, what's in it will be extra for your drama club.
Bless her heart.
When you leave school today.
Oh
so the thing of consistently supporting the cause, you know, and then when I have gone through all of that and do the stuff that I needed to and get into some places, I have some people who have never even seen the road that I've walked on tell me or dictate to me how much or what I must do. You know, so it's my mother is a trooper, and like her, I've become a trooper.
Hang on to your thoughts, trooper. We're going to take a break and come back and talk about some more troopings. Back with Paul after this. Back with Paul Campbell, folks, talking about his early days, his upbringing. From Raytown to Mountain View, your mom always that driving force. And so when you started to work, when you were at Coney Park, or when you started to establish yourself, it was important for you to move her, you said, out of that situation into a more, what did you say to call it? Uptown, middle, uptown?
Yes, uptown, yes, uptown situation.
Yes.
But the thing is, how that all started is whilst going to the School of Drama, I remembered we had a big show that night, and it was beautiful, and it was my first year of School of Drama. My friend Andreen Bonner was a part of the cast, and many other folks, and we'd finished the performance, and the people were very happy, and I was thinking to myself, wow, this is it, you know? And at the end of it, it had gone on too long, so the last bus had gone. for Maxfield Avenue. So everybody got in their cars at the, hey guys, later, all right, bye. And everyone drove out, and myself and the sodium bulbs were standing there, and the security. And then I said to him, listen, I'm going to hang here for the night. Is that cool? And he says, all right.
At the school?
At the school. And I lived in the school's bathroom for 8 months.
How does one do?
And I did that because I had to make sure back home was good too. Because whilst I did drama school, I did odd jobs. When I used to go to KC First Form, I used to pick mangoes. My KC friends will remember I used to have all these different mangoes coming to school because mango sale assures family dinner.
Gotcha.
So the responsibility at that time started then. And then from there, the first job I landed after school was being a guide at the National Gallery of Jamaica. And that was, for me, was a opening. That was a fantastic opening. It opened up my art world. It introduced me to different artists. Local they might be, but artists think that I wanted it as an extension. I moved on to international artists. I found a great friend in Dr. David Boxer, who was the curator at the gallery at the time, that spoke of de Kooning, Slavryka, all these different impresarios and classical music, which came in very handy because further down I started being the actor who would become the filmmaker, who would become the guy who wants the fantastic music.
But
for the
also
bedding.
the artist who'd been painting on zinc fences from you were in Raytown.
There you go.
Using the chlorophyll from
the green of the leaves.
as paint.
The green of the leaves, because to me, at this point in my life, I think life is mental.
You are what you think.
Life is mental. It's not that only that you are what you think, but you can materialize what you think. It can happen for you. We'll get into that in another show. But for me, life is mental. And I think it's this attitude for me that I've survived all these years.
We're going to talk about it in another show. Like
No,
this show. Yeah, not another show. Yeah, there. We're going to talk about it in this, this show.
We'll talk about it. But definitely one has to, because the key, I mean, when you really think, there was a time one night, there was a gun put at the back of my head, and the guy said, run now.
You were 13, Paul.
And I ran, and it went click, click. And when I was going over the wall back ways, I heard, pop! Okay, missed that one. So there have been so many instances where I've missed. And I've learned from the misses. And I've not only learned, but I've made sure that I kind of understand what is happening. Yeah.
And the gauge,
Yeah.
them days you said was, you would have run and stop. If your skin a burn you, you know you get lick.
Yeah.
If you
In those days, they used to say, listen, if your skin a burn you, you get shot. So when I went over the wall, the skin wasn't burning, so I just went, all right. And I was up and out. Like I was saying to you, if you've lived this kind of life, you know. There was a time where I lived in Maxfield, when there was a gully that ran from Collie Smith Drive all the way up like a spine through the ghettos, all the way up through they call Rima, and it goes up into the other Rose Town and Whitfield Town. I used to live in Whitfield Town. So when the guys would come up to create disturbance, they'd go use the gully. And how we'd know what was going on is that people would use machetes. And 3 o'clock in the morning, you'd hear the machetes on the floor of the street. Shh, shh. So you knew trouble was coming. So you got prepared.
All right. Yeah. All right. More with Paul on the other side of the river. We are back with Paul Campbell, who's sharing some of his life with us. I asked you when we spoke, Paul, if you've ever felt like you were typecast because you played enough bad man, enough shot enough. And you said to me, when you see me doing those characters, I know what I'm talking about because I've seen it.
I've lived it. I've lived it. It's all right. I was 13 at first form Kingston College, and one evening I sat on the fence with some friends. I was hanging out Maxwell Avenue and Swetnam Road, and across the street was Channel 1 recording studio. And the gates bust open, a guy comes running out, another guy ran him down, catch him, grabbing him up by his throat. Now you get a telephone. Hello, and he walks across the street. And I'm saying, you see that? I'm talking to my friend, you see that? And and that stayed with me for, until now. It still is with me. So when I get a part like Dancehall Queen, it comes along and that kid runs against the zinc that tells me where I go back. And I grab him by his throat and say, we are run, go boy. You know, so nothing has changed. You've lived that, and if you know anything about living in the ghetto, it will resonate with you. Like the line, walk and live. Because that's how we speak. You know, we insert a little bad word here and a little bad word there to nice it up or to, or to say how we feel. Mm-hmm. Because the same bad word is used in so many different places.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned KC. Let's talk a little bit about KC.
My?
KC.
KC. Kingston College.
KC and TT boards and carports and... and
KC for me was somewhere I've always wanted to go. I used to walk past the boys going to school every morning with their purple and white ties and said to Mama, that's the school I want to go. And she said, no worries, son, one day. And I'd walk up. This was at Ellison Road. And years after, I got an opportunity to go to KC. And I started going to Kingston College. And for me, it was everything. I go home, I wash my own uniform, I come back. By that time, you're entrenched in your chores and you know what to do, and mom is with you and she's so happy for you, and you're getting it all right, and your dream is on its way. Because at KC, now I'm exposed to different worlds. Friends that I've made now live uptown. They have a table tennis board in their garage. How come?
Garage.
You have a bedroom by yourself? Wow. So it was all of that. It was all of that. And then you say to yourself, yo, I'm not going back down this or that, brother. But then you say there's the other side of you that says, all right, I have a mandate. Mama thing have to be sorted out. So however I've got to do this, I'm going to. And that's what led me after KC to get that job as that guide. I was the guide at the National Gallery. But Kingston College opened me to a lot of things. The school's drama festival, where I got some mention in the paper, and it made a difference in my life because it was not a main character in the film, in the play. I played in a dream sequence, a character in a dream sequence that they sort of tipped out of a wheelbarrow, and I'd fall out in slow motion. I know, right?
Where am I laughing?
My foray.
Where is the footage, Paul? I need to know.
My foray into the business.
I need to see that.
But that's how I once I got that, the critic says, and young Campbell, I think it was Archie Lindo, and young Campbell who so flawlessly fell out.
Wow. Let's not forget Johnny Reggae. It was, 78, 79, pantomime?
Johnny Reggae was the first pantomime. My mother bought me that newspaper, and she said to me, you want to be an actor? Here, you're having auditions. Go and see if you can get in. And that's how I got Johnny Reggae.
Paul, your first big big break was the Lunatic.
The Lunatic, yes.
The Lunatic.
Film,
And
first film break.
Film break.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd
Before
read about,
that, though, they'd have films coming in that
that you'd
you'd
do
be a part of, yeah.
but this is your first
Major.
lead.
Lead, yeah.
Major lead.
Yeah.
And you took that role so seriously. I mean, I asked you, you know, if you're afraid sometimes when you go into these characters that you can't come out, but you say no, you have your method. You make sure you know or you're coming out.
Yeah.
Before you
I've
go
always,
in.
yeah.
But you literally took off your shoes, went to your sister place and get some tear-up pants. You walked to St. Anne?
Listen, after you've been thinking about this since you have sense to become an actor, and this opportunity presents itself, I quit my job as the entertainment manager at Coney Park when it came about. I drove to my sister's house. I didn't tell her what I was going to do. I asked her if I'd leave the car there. She had some pigeons in the back, chickens. I took old pants over the top of the fowl coop and I cut the legs and I put them on. I took off my shoes, got a bottle of water. I had some kind of shirt thing going on and I walked from Meadowbrook Estate to where we were shooting in Bamboo. That tree that you see me in the film, I was living there a month and a half before they even started to shoot there. This is an opportunity afforded to me that, wow, this doesn't happen so I'm saying I'm going to put everything into it. I lived under the tree. I had to sleep because I wanted to be familiar. You see it, there's a shot in the movie where you see me lying in the tree and me jump. Yeah, I was very comfortable. And it had to look that way. So, me speaking to the tree as if I'm doing it every day. I used to do it every day.
The people in the community actually thought you
People, you know how I was loved? Well, I introduced myself to the community by just walking in one day when they were all at the park. All of the madmen, them hung out. And I just sat there. I hadn't bathed for about a month or so now.
You had lice, Paul.
I had lice, I had crab louse, I had hair lice, I had itching all the way, itching. But it was for the cause. And I sat there and I'm itching and I asked for an orange and one of the guys looked at me and said, "Who you?" And I screamed the name Aloysius. Only a madman would do that, right? Okay,
You tell me,
so after that, I was adopted. And I just, very quiet, I said nothing. I just sat there and said, "Hello." They started calling me "Hello." "Hello, yo." And throw me a thing. "Hello, come up a bush with me." Guy had a nice farm. I'd walk up to his farm, sleep in a dry out house for days, wake up and don't know where I am. But it was a part of the process, And when they started shooting, I felt as if I'd made a change, So my thing, I just always want to do it very well. If I'm going to be the bad guy, you've got to be scared,
Yes, you do scare us in those roles. Life after the Lunatic. We'll talk with Paul about that when we come back. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. It is our final segment. I'm reading this a while ago and I'm like, reach a final segment already? But guess what? Good news, this is a two-parter. So we're going to keep talking to Paul for another hour after this. So let me use this segment now to talk a little bit about how this film changed your life. But before that, your mom passed just before. Did your mom pass just before? So she didn't get to see it.
At the premiere, I had a seat empty beside me. She was the reason why I was there.
You never forget?
She nurtured the journey. She passed a couple of weeks before the premiere.
Just a couple of weeks.
I wanted her to be there, you know? But she was.
Yes, I was just about to say.
She was.
You tell me about that
She was.
Monday evening when Garfield came to talk to you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome, my friend.
She was.
When
She
your
was.
brother came to tell you that she had passed.
And I was very proud. I know she was proud of me. She knew I was doing it. There were newspaper articles out, you know, saying Paul Campbell is doing this and he's doing that, and so she was aware. But I wanted her there.
I wanted her to see it.
Oh, man. But the film itself was my foray into the business, and it was. I'm very thankful to. He's no longer with us, the writer, Anthony Winkler.
Tony.
Such a brilliant script. The writing, it was this. I remember when I got notified about that, I was with Coney Park. I did the screen test, and I came back, and I'm on edges. I got another call saying you'll have to do a second screen test. I said, that's all right. So I chose the scene that had his name, because he has about 23, 24 names. And I tried to remember it, and I made it into a melody so I could remember it easier. And I went to the screen test, and I did that. And I used his name. I don't think anybody else used that scene, you know. So I did that. I went back to work. I got the call the next day. Hey, come on over to 10A. So I went to 10A,
Yes,
West Kings House Road, and I got there, and everybody was clapping. Yeah. You are the lunatic. I mean, yeah.
Wow.
So it definitely was wonderful.
And so the foray would take you, I mean, from even your days working at LOJ for the year that you were at LOJ.
For the year.
Looking over at the airport saying, one day I'm going to be outside of Jamaica, because you say that year at LOJ showed you, I'm not going to be one of those cats who's getting a 25-year award
Nope.
for long service. I'm
Nope.
going to be on one of those planes.
Not when there's so much life happening.
Yes.
And, you know, the world, a big old place with so many people, so many places, you know, and to be connected with a device, it's so much easier if you're there. 3D, real, that you can touch. You know, there's nothing, if you can't touch it, it's not real.
So from Jamaica to Anticarmen in New York.
So from Jamaica,
New York to...
I went to Washington.
Right.
I had a friend who had a friend who worked as a professor at Howard. And I went to Washington, and I stayed in Washington for a little time. I was about to go to Howard when I got a job that took me back to New York. I went to New York, I got that job, and it went well for a little while. Then along came Lloyd Richards. Lloyd Richards is a very prolific director in the black theater in America. And so I got the job as a cold reader, just to read to the actors, me not being the actor at all.
Interesting.
And this was an off-Broadway production, which is everything, you know. And I got the job, and I thought, you know, well, I'm a cold reader. I'm in. I'm still in, you know. So I'm reading to the actors, and I'm reading with emotion. And then Lloyd says to me, our young Campbell, you really don't have to read with any emotion much. It's called cold reading for a particular.
Stop, warm up the reading, sir.
But I kept doing it.
Because that's who you were.
I kept doing it because the actor who's reading for the part, it is such an unfair situation as an actor to step into an audition and have a cold reader without any feeling, and you're trying to be emotional, this guy saying, yeah, and he came outside with a shiny pistol. You know, and where do you go from there? So I thought I would feed the actor who came in the line, and it would be easier for them. So said, so done. At the very end of it, they didn't find the actor that they needed. And at the end of the session, Mr. Richards said to me, you're him. I said, I'm sorry, sir? He said, you're the actor. You're in the play, Mr. Campbell. You're in Nika Kazantzakis' Columbus. I thought, okay, New Federal Theater, off-Broadway. I was there, so it was, and there are different stuff like this that keeps happening because I go for it. I don't stop. If you tell me don't, I want to know why.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and like going back to Mama, the driving force of wanting to go find out. Go find out. Here it's only here, but it's a big old world.
Go find out. And so
go find out.
You'd end up in London and then in LA, and whew, there's a lot more story.
There's a lot of
Paul, and we're going to continue the conversation. He's not going anywhere. We're going to lead the actual season with him right after we wrap this show. You'll see us back here next week, Monday. So if you see things done a little differently for this show, it's because it's 2 parts. So we're going to ask you to tune in next week, but I am going to do what I always do and let it with our affirmation, the first of 2 for Paul Campbell. So no matter how much of a top shotter you think you are, life can make you feel like you are going mad. Sometimes like you're becoming a bit of a lunatic. It will bring you to your knees. It will humble and humanize you and remind you that no matter who you are no different than your brother or your sister. No more special than your fellow man in what befalls you, but that it is your fellow man and acts of love and kindness and connectivity that will keep us. And an unending faith in the Creator who put us here to live out our purpose and will ensure He keeps us here until that is done. More of all of what I'm saying is going to be revealed when we check in again with Paul next week to talk about his bouts of illness and how he's beat it, all the accolades he has received, but how now it's just being here and having life that keeps him going every day. So we're affirming tonight before we go, I'm going to keep painting until the canvas is complete. That's our soul food and our show for this evening. Thanks for watching. We're back next week with this guy and our season finale. More of Paul's story and the power of the human spirit. Until that time, every blessing. And please remember to count your blessings. Night, everybody.